Welcome to Burnt or Buttered, quick movie reviews. I'm Toast.
And I'm Stetson. This is how the show works. First, we pop things off, where we give you a synopsis-free... All right.
A synopsis-free spoiler alert.
Yes! Where we tell you everything about this movie, but nothing about this movie at the same time. Where we give you a synopsis that's spoiler-free. Just a quick overview of what this movie is and what we kind of expected going into it.
And then we get into Behind the Butter, which is where we talk about the cinematography, the acting, the color grading, all the juicy little details that you probably don't care about.
But it's what makes a movie, and to us, it can often break or make a movie. Finally, we're going to go into the final pop, which is our rating on a scale from burnt to buttered. How good was this thing? Buttered being it's perfect. There's nothing that we would change about it.
Blockbuster.
You have to see this in theaters. And burnt being not even worth smelling.
Yikes.
So let's get started and pop things off.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about Better Man, the Robbie Williams tell-all biopic with him as a monkey.
You're not supposed to say that yet. But yes, this is a biopic, another biopic that just came out about Robbie Williams. Do you know Robbie Williams?
Robin Williams, yes. He was the genie in Aladdin.
I would say Robbie Williams is way more famous than Robbie Williams, but Robbie Williams would not say that about himself.
Nor would the plot of this movie.
And so we go from young Robbie Williams all the way through till his final, well, not even his final, but an act that he does as like a redemption from his life of being in a boy band to an addiction lifestyle to some losses in his life, all the way to overcoming these internal demons at the end.
Yeah. It's directed by the same guy as The Greatest Showman.
Which you would expect a lot.
And you do get quite a show.
There is a show.
There is a show.
So without doing any more spoilers, we're going to dive into Behind the Butter, where there will be spoilers. So if you do not want to hear any spoilers, go ahead and skip to the final pop. But we're going to dive into Behind the Butter right now.
Yeah. So Behind the Butter, why is often the question that was going through my mind is what and why? So to pop things off with Behind the Butter, he's a monkey.
Yes.
And Stetson, you understood this point a lot better than I did. Why is he a monkey?
I saw it as at the very, very beginning, it talks about, I'm going to show you how I view myself. And so he's viewing himself as this animal-esque, like different than everybody else. He's always been different than everybody else. Even though no one could see it, he saw in himself that he was always different. And he was always meant to be like being putting on a show for people. And so I think him being a monkey is kind of like the idea of a circus animal in a way that the animal is only there for the consumption of the people watching.
Yeah, which, to your point, is a theme that's brought up throughout the entirety of the movie. It's him struggling with having to put on this show.
And it's interesting because, like, I don't know if it's meant to be this way, but it's all based around Robbie Williams not caring at all what it takes or what he has to do just to be famous. His only goal in his entire life is to be famous, is to be known for something. And along that journey, he ends up discovering that he has something to say that's not what he thinks people want to hear necessarily. And that's what is his breakthrough moment of figuring out that, like, oh, I can just be myself, and myself is good enough to be famous.
Yeah, it's interesting. In the beginning, like you said, he's just trying to be famous, and it mostly stems from his dad, it seems, where his dad has this completely overwhelming desire to be famous, which he passes on to his son. And so throughout the movie, there's kind of these two things that he's trying to do, which is get his dad's respect and become famous.
Yeah, and overcome the imposter syndrome feeling that he's always meant to be and always has been a nobody. And that stems from his dad letting him know that some people are just born great and that's just the way that it is, and some people are born as nothing. And he wasn't meant to be anything, according to his dad when he was little.
Yeah. So a lot of it is about him finding himself, and there's this struggle with he wants to be famous, but he doesn't know why, and so I think the culmination of the whole thing is when he finds out, like you said, that his thoughts are worth expressing versus him just trying to create a commercial success.
Mm-hmm. And I think like the whole idea is around that his actual real things is not what the people want. He's just there to give what the people want. And so the lyrics and the thoughts and the things that he actually feels as a human weren't important, because he's like, nobody wants to hear these. No one's going to want to hear these because I'm a nobody. Nobody wants to hear about a nobody's problems,
which his dad even says to him. His dad says, people don't buy tickets to hear about your problems, So even...
Well, the next part of that was pretty insane and good in the way that he said, you look at these people that are gods, Sinatra and a few other guys that he looked up to. And then he said, the reason why they're gods is because they made people forget about their problems. What they did made people forget, and they don't come to hear their problems. They come to forget their own.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's your job, is to make people forget their own problems.
Which was interesting because throughout the entire movie, I forgot about my problems. The only thing that I could think of is this would be such a great movie if he wasn't a monkey.
See, and the whole time I was thinking, is this movie feels like it feels like there was too much influence from Robbie Williams. Like Robbie Williams is in the writing room and like, oh, how did this happen? He's like, oh, this happened, this girl said this, and this said this, and as I was a kid, this is like how we talk to each other, and like I'm sure that's how it was when he was a kid, but when it came to the movie, it just felt weird in a way. It was kind of refreshing that somebody was brave enough to just put out stuff that might not be received very well by a lot of people. And that's just how it is, and that's maybe like how it was. It felt good that someone was kind of brave enough to do that again. But at the same time, I was like, does that add to this story?
Right. I've seen a lot of reviews where people are talking about how brave it was for him to, be this open about his life, show you the parts that aren't good, right? But for me, him being a chimpanzee almost took away from the accountability because it dehumanized him. It made him an other rather than one of us, somebody that I could relate to, and then also him being a monkey jerked off by a human woman was very distracting for me. And I thought, this is a thing that I never thought that I would want to see.
Yeah, I didn't really think of it that way. I did, as I was watching it and he was a monkey, there was a point where I forgot that he was a monkey. And I viewed him as what I think their goal was just him being different. And I gave him every attribute that a human would have and not like a monkey would have. But there were moments that he showed like monkey things that he would do, which I thought was off-putting in the way of you're you're taking me away from what you're trying to do by making this monkey aspect. He's not supposed to be a monkey. He's supposed to be different.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the thought process of me, and I felt that throughout the movie, that I forgot that he was a monkey and is that he was just supposed to be very different than everyone else around him. But there was moments in the movie that I think would have been harder to portray if he wasn't a monkey. There's a scene where he is contemplating suicide on a frozen lake, and he's holding a razor blade, and he's cut himself, and there's this weight and gravity to it that was really, really impactful to me. That scene, and then the scene of the abortion happening were shot super, super well.
Yeah.
And were told in a way that I thought was really, really, really thought-provoking and had a great message around it. And I don't know if, especially the suicidal scene, would have been too heavy as a human. Like watching a human being have that moment, it would have made the whole movie a little bit too heavy. And it was heavy enough, you know, like it was heavy enough to where you're like, oh my gosh. Like if you've ever felt that way, or if you've ever had like feelings around that, you're gonna really see yourself in this moment. Yeah.
And I do agree with you. I think there were moments where you could overlook it, but for the majority of the movie, I was just sitting there thinking, he doesn't have to be a monkey for this. And it was distracting. But, you know, I will say, like you said, there were some extremely beautiful scenes, some very good storytelling. That scene that you were talking about with them finding out they're pregnant and all that, that was a great sequence.
No words were spoken.
Yeah.
And like even going through the emotional heartache that they have of being excited, they're putting together a crib, and then they like end up telling the producer, and the producer's like, you can't do this. Like,
right.
You can't be a pregnant girl in this band and in this group. And then going to the doctor in that moment, and he's left behind. It was just shot so well, and the story was there so much that you can feel the excitement and the love that these two characters had together.
Yeah.
And then the feeling after, even when they get in a fight about it, you know, when he's like talking about, oh, it must feel good to have this platinum album, even though you sacrificed our family to get it.
Yeah.
And that was like a douchebag move, but
yeah, I mean, most of the movie is him making douchebag moves, but I feel like it was a very impactful movie. You know, there were a lot of very, very heavy themes that were talked about. There was a lot of comic relief, you know. The storytelling was really good, but I just kept on coming back to, he doesn't have to be a monkey for this.
Yeah. I go back and forth with how I feel about it just in general, because I do think that those things happened in the movie, and I do think that they were successful, and I think the majority of that is in despite of the story. Yeah. The story itself, and like Robbie Williams in general. Like, so at the end of the movie, I'm looking at it, I'm like, that was the most narcissistic movie I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
This whole entire movie is about how special and different this main character is, and the whole entire movie is him just telling it the way that he wants it to be told. And there's moments that will help other people inside this film, but it wasn't about other people. It was all about Robbie Williams, and it will always and forever be about Robbie Williams. Even those moments that I'm like, that was great and that was told well and that can be impactful, it loses all its luster because it's all framed around the idea that there's something innately special about Robbie Williams that nobody else has.
And that you can be a douchebag your entire life and step on people and not care about anybody. But then, you know, as long as you have like one good concert, you're fine.
Well, and the idea around like you can sell your soul to the devil to get what you want, and then at the end you can make it all right.
Yeah.
Like do what it takes, do everything that it possibly happens. Like be the guy in the boy band that has
Pretends to be gay so that the gay population will be into this boy band.
like has no morals or no outlook as long as it's getting you towards fame. Like even the idea of his dad getting like his final wish, even though he was just this horrible person his entire life and sought nothing other than himself. Like just looking at his dad, that Robbie Williams had like is very far on the side of the spectrum of narcissism, just based off of how narcissistic his dad is. Like, his dad has one little sliver of like people like me, and then he leaves his family.
Yeah, he literally won a $5 like open mic comic night.
Yeah,
and he let €5. They said £5, and then he just left his family because he won £5.
Yeah,
one night.
This is insane, and because of that, I can't love it like I love other movies because it's not for anybody. Like there's good parts of it.
It's for one person.
It's for one person, and it's just like this. This is literally just a video of Robbie Williams looking at Robbie Williams, like in the best light that he possibly could, and just be like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I'm amazing."
Yeah, it's his redemption story, which, again, I feel like I read a few reviews where people were talking about the choice to make him a chimpanzee, and some people were saying that it's the only way that you could watch such a terrible character for 2 hours. Like it's the only thing that made people continue to watch it rather than saying this guy sucks.
Sure. Yeah, turning him into a monkey took away the human aspect of him enough to where you're like, oh, there's kind of a reason why he sucks.
Yeah.
Instead of him just being human.
It's outside of him.
Yeah.
It's not his fault that he was born as a monkey.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting take on a film, and it's hard to say either way if it would have been better or worse if he wasn't a monkey. And I don't think it will ever be done again. That one character, one character in the movie is just magically a different species.
And I feel like it would have been more impactful for me and less distracting if everybody else saw him as Robbie Williams, but when he saw himself, since that's the point of it is I see myself as a monkey. Nobody else saw him as a monkey.
Yeah.
They'd call him animal, but
yeah, it would have been really interesting to just have small glimmers of that where you're seeing Robbie Williams play his big concert or whatever as the human Robbie Williams, and then it reverses onto like every time he's a monkey, you're looking through Robbie Williams' eyes.
Right.
Every time he's not, you're looking through the eyes of someone that's just
everybody
there,
else,
being a spectator. The whole entire movie, I was just waiting for him to transform into a human, and there was so many like glimmers or chances that they could have done that kind of artfully, and I think that they played with the idea multiple times. Just they had to have, because the shot was too good to not.
There were so many shots
it.
where I was like, "This is gonna be the one where they switch him."
Exactly, and so I think they played with the idea, and at the end of the day, they decided not to. For whatever reason, the entire movie you're expecting it. The entire movie you're waiting for him to turn back into a human.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that when he's got to change the way he sees himself, right? And so you think that would end the movie, where at the end he's not this monkey. He's a regular human being. That he's a man that's just... that's the redemption. The redemption
is the evolution. Yeah. Because the whole movie he's talking about, oh, I'm not evolved. I'm an animal. I'm crazy, So at the end you would think, oh, he's evolved.
Yeah.
Because now he's Frank Sinatra, god tier fame.
Yeah, he's a god. You've done it. You're a god. Like, that's what his dad says.
And then everybody walking out of the theater, well, even Sammy, 15 minutes into the movie goes, am I supposed to believe this is about a real person?
It was interesting. I think that it was brave in some ways. I thought it was shot really, really well. There were a couple structures in the show that I thought just really didn't work. The boy band sequence of them doing their song and going through the city just was horrible to me. I hated every second of it.
Oh, the dance sequence.
The dance sequence and them like running through the city and like, you know, doing all the crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Just sucked for me. Like
that was like the moment where I was like, oh yeah, this was directed by the same guy as The Greatest Showman.
It felt like it would have lived in The Greatest Showman, but it was horrible. It didn't have a place in this film. Like it was just like, oh, we're just gonna throw this in here because it's a musical.
Because it was like the one scene that it didn't really have a point other than let's play some music that these guys played.
Yeah, so dumb.
Go into the final pop.
What do you think?
You know, for me, like I was saying, I think that this could have been an extremely impactful movie. Like it could have been a really, really good movie. And the whole time I was thinking that, like, this storyline is really good, but I was so distracted by the fact that he was a chimp that I just couldn't get into it in the way that I wanted to. So for me, it had the potential to be really good, but it's just right down the middle. This is an average popcorn eating experience for me.
Yeah. For me, I'm going to have to give this thing, I'm going to give it a 3.2.
Wow.
Kind of right in the middle. And the only reason it's in the middle is because I do think that there's moments in this movie that are really impactful. Mm-hmm. There are moments that I felt a lot. And there are moments that I was like, that was a perfect way of portraying that life event.
Yeah.
And that was the only redeeming aspect of it. Like, if I wanted to hate it more than I did, at the end of the day, I left and I had those thoughts of like, there was some good stuff in there. Like The Greatest Showman did his thing. Like the director of The Greatest Showman did his thing and made some magic happen in this story that I wanted to really, really hate and still don't like. Like, I have to give it roses in the way of that was beautiful. That was really told well, but I don't like it as a film.
It's not one that you're going to, at least that I'm going to want to go see again.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that I'll ever watch it again, honestly.
No, but I can't say this is a horrible thing just because it looks really good. There's some moments that are good. It had potential of doing something,
right,
worth watching. But am I going to tell you to go see it in theaters? Absolutely not.
No. Am I going to tell you to watch it ever? If you feel like it, if you like Robbie Williams, go for it.
If you like Robbie Williams, go for it. And I really only knew one song in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Even though how famous he is really famous.
He's very famous, just not in the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, awesome. See it at your own peril. It was a Monday mystery movie, actually, so we had no idea that we were going to see it.
Yeah. We went to see it as the mystery movie, and the first song starts playing. We haven't even seen anything yet, and I turn to Sammy and I say, "This is a musical biopic." Hi, I'm Robbie Williams.
Yeah, I had remembered some trailers from it, and I was not excited when we found out that it was.
I audibly laughed when I saw the monkey on screen.
All right, well, that's it for Better Man. Let us know what you're thinking. Be sure to share this with somebody that's thinking about Better Man, if there's anyone out there that's thinking about Better Man.
And let us know how it could have been a better movie.
Exactly. Sweet. Well, we'll see you next time on Burnt or Buttered.
See you next time.